This is part 4 of the 700 R4 transmission reassemble inside the barrel of the transmission. The last video, part 3, was the reassemble of the pump and valve body, and that's already done. And gonna be putting every piece back inside this barrel, top it off, seal it off with the transmission pump here. That'll seal the whole barrel up once you have all the pieces in. Before we get into that, when you're doing a rebuild, it's good to have, like one of these. For GM for this 700 R4, and it's also for the later years they changed it to 4L60E, but this transmission here is 700 R4, and this would show all the pieces, and what it is. And this other one here, the same thing, but it just shows for like updated parts, and retrofit and all that stuff, interchanging parts, and it's good to have these when you're reassembling, and when you're reassembling, putting pieces back together, it's good to have some Dr. Tranny assembly glue. They have the blue is it's for light tack, like you use for like the fiber clutches, and then this green is the heavy tack. Like if you got like a washer that you just want to make sure it doesn't fall off while you're flipping a part upside down or whatever, it will heavy tack it, it won't move. You don't want to use this for the fiber clutches or something light. You don't want to use the heavy, or either way around, whatever. But all these pieces here, it's going inside the barrel, and have the sub assemblies, all that, and piston for this input shaft here, assembly here, and low reverse that will be going in first in this barrel. And over here got all 5 sets of the fiber. All 5 sets of the fibers and the steels clutches. I didn't replace the steel. They looked good to me, and I just cleaned them up. But I did replace all of the fibers for each of the 5 sets. So that's all 5 clutch sets over there. And before you get to assembling everything, like I mentioned before, you want to clean every everything up, every piece, every part or whatever, and clean it with some brake cleaner. And after you do that, you want to, like, it's good to dip them in like a tub like this and clean transmission fluid, you know, because you don't want to put, you know, clean it with dirty transmission fluid, and just you want to, you know, keep the parts clean as possible. And especially that valve body. But so also for this transmission pump here, depending on what year do you have, it has, you gotta put these gaskets that sit in here, you know. There's one for a later model and one for an earlier model, and I'll get into the details about that when we get to the pump. And all bushings are replaced. I've got the bushings on this pump that I showed in the last video, in part 3. So I went ahead and got all of the bushings, replaced that one, and then there's one on there. And on the pistons, this is the only one that I won't be showing on the video, putting it back in. I got the snap ring in it, but I will be showing for the case and this input shaft assembly right here. There's a piston that goes in there, there's a piston that goes in there, and got all of bushings replaced, new bushings. All the bushings are replaced. And as well as there's one in the case too on the bottom. See, I'm gonna flip it upside down. Right there. And first piece that's gonna go in will be this low reverse piston right here. I already got assembly goo, Dr. Tranny all over. I got the blue on here for light tack. And as well as all these, there's one in here, ring seals. This one right here, and then there's a third one right there. And then as well as every other part that has a ring seal, you know, other pistons for this. And like I said, I already got this assembled together. The snap ring is on this one. I only did this one off the camera. And this notch right here, you see inside this case, it's a 12 o'clock. The top of this transmission, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You see right in here, where my finger's pointing at, a notch in the case. Line that notch right here with the notch inside the case, and you just drop it in. Make sure it's aligned. And okay, that's make sure it's sitting in there. And next is this ring of springs for the low reverse piston. Sits right on top of the low reverse piston with snap ring right here. You set that, drop that in there, just like that. And now there's two different compressors. This one, which this longer one will be for this low reverse inside on the bottom of the case. And then this other one is a smaller one. They look the same, but one is bigger than the other. The smaller one is used for the input shaft assembly. Yeah, as well as like when you trying to fit in pistons, you know, got these that will help get, you know, seals you remove and install. You got one with the L shape and one with the straight there, and it's good to have when you're putting the, especially when you're installing them back in, try to push the piston back in. That one's got the hook, and then that one has got like a, I guess that's angle, you know, 35 degrees or something like that, you know. Just this is the angle hook, and then that's just a hook. And Go ahead and put this in here so it can compress these springs down. That way you can get the snap ring in. Otherwise, it's going to give you a lot of hell trying to get the snap ring in. You got it. You line the tool up with the notches. It's got like a line of notches on the sides. You know, like right here. On this bottom part right here, it's got that. You just line it up with the grooves inside the case. And then you start twisting to lower the pushing arm. Just keep spinning it and let it make it lower till you touch base with the ring of springs. Make sure it's even, and then pushes down the springs, like I said, and just keep going until you get far enough to where you see the grooves, to where the snap ring actually goes. And if that piston is not down all the way, sometimes it might not be sometimes, you know, and it's hard to turn, and because if you don't see the grooves yet, just get some, that'll help turn it, like some vice grips or something. Help turn the should be about right there. And the snap ring, find that snap ring in place. If you have a hard time with using the snap ring pliers, you know, you just screwdrivers, whichever way is best. Just try not to bend the snap ring. I got that in then. And that's there, it's in there, and make sure you push the edges in, make sure it's all the way in the groove before you pop off this compressor tool. And it is, and remove the tool, compressor tool. There it is. So low reversed is it ain't going nowhere. It's in there. Snap ring has got everything still, and I got this the rear planetary gear set right here with the sun gear and the rear planet carrier and the rear ring gear. This is all for the rear planetary gear set. Let's start off with the ring gear. It's gonna have a bush, it's gonna have a bearing on the bottom, okay? And like I said, when you're flipping parts upside down, you want, you know, if it's something like that, issue like that, you just go ahead and use the green just to make sure this it stays there and don't go nowhere. You know, some there, and there it is, just like that. Now on the how you want to put these bearings in is where you notice on the outside you see the opening on the outside. Now you flip it over, you see the opening on the inside, right? You want the opening that's on the inside to face down, and the opening on the outside, you want it to face up. So this is going to go down in the case. You got the opening on the outside facing up, just like that. See the opening on the inside for the bottom side, and you just drop this in with the bearing on it. Drop it in just like that. And then what's next is planet carrier, also same thing, bearing. So the same thing like I said about the openings. You want the opening on the outside to face up from the case. Face it up, and put this here. Just like that, and that ain't going nowhere, and just like that. Bearing on there, drop it in on top of this. Drop it in on top of the ring gear. Drop this planet carrier on top of the ring gear, just like that. What's next is sun gear. You'll see the part where a snap ring, like this little snap ring on the top of here. You have that facing up. Now you see these long groove splines that going like a, you know, up and down like that at an angle. That's gonna face down, and then when you see this little snap ring on the top of it, that faces up, and you just drop that in the center of the planet carrier, just like that. And now we're ready for put the low reverse clutches in. So let me grab them over here, and I have already soaked these in with the little transmission fluid. Each, you know, both fibers and steels, you know, mainly the fibers, let them, you know, soak, dip them a little bit, a few minutes. Ain't gotta be no day or nothing, you just dip them. And I also use some of this blue Dr. Tranny and put it on all of the fiber clutches. You know, you want to make sure it's on the fiber clutches. You can put them on the steels, but you really want to just target the fiber clutches. Make sure it's all on the fiber clutches real good. And I got these zip tied, you know, just to keep everything in order and keep them separate from the other ones. So can't reach that in there. Here's the snap ring for this set right here. And should look like this. And the steels will go first on the bottom for this set. And you finish up with the fiber on top. Then the pressure plate sits on top of this. So start off with the bottom here. And you notice it's got these little cut notches on here. And this one is only gonna go in a certain way for this first steel that's going in. Let's see. Yeah, where that notch, that little cut notch, you want to have that at the 6 o'clock position. This little notch, just like that. 6 o'clock position. Just drop it in there. It's not dead on 6, but it's closest to 6. And then just follow the other steel the same way. These are gonna fit. These are a little easier to tell how they go in versus that first one. You see the notch there also. And you see as it goes in, it will line up. You'll see the pattern in the case that it does go in that 6 o'clock position, the notch, just like that. And a fiber, and you fit the fibers, the teeth, and it's got little grooves on this planet carrier. It'll just fit through the grooves, and follow it with a steel. Just have all the notches line up the same way. It's the best way to do it, you know, on the steels. Another fiber clutch. Another steel. The notch. It's only gonna have one notch on these plates. Drop that in. Fiber. Another steel. Fiber. Steel. And fiber. Now that's all the clutches for the low reverse laid in. And now this is the pressure plate that goes next, but before you put that in there, you got this anti-rattle clip. See a little indent bump right there, engraved dent right there. Just put some of this green tack on here. Right inside the case, That's the 12, that's 3, that's 6, that's 9 o'clock position. Like right here on the 5 o'clock position in the case, you'll see a little bump, the shape of this right here. You'll see that they fit together right there. You drop this with some green tack, and then you just line it up, and then just drop it and make sure it's on the bump. Just like that. 5 o'clock position. Just make sure the bump on the case lines up with the indent, the same shape of the bump in the case on the clip. Don't have it the other way around. 5 o'clock position, and so when that clip is in, going over top of this fiber clutch on top right here right now, you set this pressure plate in. And you see right here, you'll have the right here between where my fingers at right there, it'll have the biggest the widest opening around compared to around this whole plate. That wide part you'll see the widest notch piece that sticks out on the case, that it'll be the same size as this. And that'll be like, that's like the 4 o'clock position. Between 3 and 4 o'clock in the case is where you make sure that that wide space right here just lines up, and you just drop that in. Actually, you want to have this sun ring out before the pressure plate. It'd be best make it easier And then you got like grooves and notches in between this pressure plate and planet carrier. You want notches to fit into the grooves. So you just turn the planet carrier, make sure they're aligned. The notches are aligned with the grooves so they can connect, and just so you can drop this other piece right there, and just tap it down, and kind of tap it down, make sure it's seated all the way around. Just tap it. All the way to where you see until you're flush with the grooves for the snap ring, because that's what's going to go in next. And this plastic washer with the legs facing down, you just drop them anywhere in the notches that you see, and just like that. Or you can even tack it down. You want just drop that in the notch, the leg with the notch or the groove, just like that. And like I said, make sure that this pressure plate is down and flush all the way around. And it is. Get the snap ring. And when you put the snap ring in, paying attention to the anti-rattle clip, you're gonna see in this case you're gonna see right here at the bottom, that first big notch you see down there. When you have the edge of the snap ring, you just want it to just barely stick out. Actually, the one next to the smaller one next to the big one, the big notch in the case, you don't want it to stick out on that side more than that. because you don't want the snap ring to bump off. It's possible it can happen like that, depending on how you put the, you know, snap ring in. And there it is. Just have it barely sticking out. Just like this. See, right? There's that end of the snap ring. That's the other end. This is the 6 o'clock position right here where my finger's at. You got that bigger piece that's sticking out of the case, and you got the smaller one right there. You have it just barely sticking out, just as you see right there, because this is the anti-rattle clip right here. You just barely have it over to pass over this, just that much, just would be perfect right there, just like that. And that's what it should look like. And once that snap ring is in there, and once that snap ring's in there, all these pieces are secured in. It's not going nowhere unless you remove the snap ring and just drop the sun gear in. It's like this. And that's what it should look like after you get the snap ring in. And what's next? It goes in this case, the barrel of this case. It's a sun gear. It's not sun gear, the sun shell. Now I replaced this part because it is said that these inner splines right here, they're known for wearing out at the teeth, and even also breaking around the outer rim right here. And it's one of the top 3 common issues with these 700 R4. It's one of the top 3. So this one is heat treated, and you know, it reinforced the strength, you know, so that, you know, it's more durable. So when you open up the transmission up and you pull this out of it, you want to go ahead and replace it even if it looks good, because it's a chance you're taking. You put it back in because it looks okay, you put that same piece back in, you know, it might break later, you know, it's a high chance for that. So it's good to just go ahead and get the heat treated sun shell, and make sure that this brass copper looking washer with the legs sticking down in those grooves are just like that. Drop it in. And to the splines of the sun gear, just like that. What I have here goes in next is the front planetary gear set right here. This is the front planetary gear set. And this snap ring goes with this set, having to do when you putting the output shaft back into place. We'll get to that after this. Let's start off. Okay. Got the front sun gear, the front planet carrier, and the front ring gear. Start off with the front ring gear. And it's good to not miss these bushings. And drop that in. Drop the forward, the front ring gear in first on top of the sun shell. Make sure it's down all the way. And it should have movement like that. And it won't go the other way when you're trying to move the ring gear itself. It should lock if you're turning to the left, and if you're turning right, it should move just like that. You're turning it to the right, and then you try to turn to the left, and it's locking and going nowhere. That's what it should do. And next is the front planet carrier. You know, the same with all these bearings. As I said before, you have the opening on the outside that faces up. Let's tack that down with some green. Like that. Planet carrier sits right on top of the ring gear. Just like that. Just like that. And now, ready for the output shaft. Let's see. This up, Right now on the shaft, the output shaft, I don't have I have it with me, but I haven't put it on yet. Uh, for the speedometer gear, speedo, driven drive gear goes there, but not gonna be putting it in right now. I'll be doing that the next video. Output shaft. This end is for the get the drive shaft connects this the back end. So this end is gonna be facing up in the barrel. This end that for the drive shaft, of course, is gonna face down for the bottom. And let's see. I want the shaft to come up from underneath. And then just raise it up. So it's up all the way. There you go. Just like that. And just like that. And now we're ready for the output shaft snap ring. And get that in there. There it goes. And just make sure it's in all the way. You never want to put weight forcing, pushing up. You never want to set this output shaft down on anything and let the weight push up. See, that's the and then with this front sun gear with the smaller part facing up, just drop that in around the tip of the output shaft, and just like that, that's basically, this is the output end done. The back end of it, this is the output end. That's what it should look like when you're done with the output end. It has both planetary gear sets, you know, on the output, because this is the tip of the output shaft, and the other end of the output shaft is where the tailpiece is at, that connects to the you know, when you're putting it back in the vehicle, you connect the drive shaft to be on the back end of the transmission, and that covers the output of the transmission. And now I'm gonna go ahead and lay this back down carefully. You want to be careful depending on how you're assembling it, you know. Start off with, because this will be the next piece that goes in. I already got it's got two washers in here. I already tacked them in place with the green, and the piston is not in here yet, and that's what we're about to do. Like I mentioned, for this input reverse, I already got the piston with the snap ring in place, so this one is done already. but this one ain't. And inside the case, that piston's been done since the beginning. So there's only this piston left for this input shaft assembly, where we're gonna be fitting in after the pistons and all the piston pieces are in here in place. Then right on top of it is 3 clutch sets just in here itself. So this right here is the first 2 clutch sets. These are 2 put together. I put these 2 together and not with the other one because you fit 2 clutch sets and then it goes to snap ring, and then you put the for the 3rd and 4th clutch on top of these, and then you snap ring that one. But I'm gonna do this one first, and okay, snap ring. It's gonna hold all this down at the end. Let's start off with the overrun clutches. It's gonna have two fibers for those. Well, actually, I'm jumping the gun. Can't do that until I'll put these back to over here. Okay. Gotta put these pistons in first. I got them all together already, but just gonna pull them out because I changed all the seals. Go ahead and pull out each piece at a time from the top. You got this, and set them over here. And you have this piece. And this piece. These springs, ring of springs on here. And then this. And then this piece right here with the smaller circle facing up, it's going to face up. You're going to have the seal right here. And you want to have the blue on these seals when you're popping them back in. That way nothing, you know, like we had a little, if you got trouble for some reason pushing these in, it's good to have what I mentioned earlier, these, you know, O-ring, ring seals, and remover installers, these little tools here. You know, hard to reach places, especially when you're putting these back in. You know, you can just go around it and it'll, you know, help get it a lot easier, because sometimes it like to get stuck, you know. So, but I already had these in prior to this, and once it shouldn't be should be much of a hassle now. Man, not a hassle, I'm just saying. You know, when you're putting in new seals, you know, you just gotta break them in a little bit. And that just popped in. Then the next piece with the claws facing up like that. You got these big 5 spaces here. Just line it up because it's got 5 on here. Just drop it in just like that. And these springs, ring of springs, sit on top of this. Then next, actually, if I drop that in, I'm gonna get these on together as one, then drop it in. Sometimes these, make sure see, this piece here, see the smaller circle on the bottom is going to face down on this piece compared to that first piece. This small piece is going to face down, and then this with the, you can see the seal on that bottom edge with these little, and it's going to have these pegs sticking up. Drop that in the little bowl, and let's see, this one's trying to go sideways. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my little pick tool. So you just, you have that little, and it wants to act like that, you just, but don't, just be careful not to poke the, you know, the seal. You know, you just take your time, just go around it just little by little, as you know, or if you can just get it in one swipe, but you know, just don't tear up the seals, you know. And I just went in just like that. And then when it should look like this, with the small circle on the bottom and these legs sticking up, and you have this piece with these pegs for the ring of springs. You'll see these pegs. See, that side don't have nothing. That side's got the pegs. The pegs face up, and it sits down in here. Yeah. So you have. It's good to put these on. Put this on all the seals, assembly glue, or you know. Just like that. All these seals are replaced. And you're gonna have the 5 legs, just like you seen the claws on this piece under here. Wherever you see them 5 wider legs sticking out, you fit them in these wide spaces here, these 5 wide spaces with these 5 right here, and just like that. Push it down. Make sure everything is seated right. And just lightly push to make sure that all the way around it is just like that. And ring of springs here. Set the springs on top of the pegs, just like that. And after you got that set down, what's gonna be next is the snap ring. Right here. Now we're gonna use this compressed tool for this input shaft assembly. So you just set it. You're gonna have a second set of a groove inside the case of this case for this sub-assembly here. You fit it on that second one below, not this top one, but underneath the top one, this one that's lower is where you want to fit this edge of this tool. And you might have to press down the tool itself just to try to get it down there. Just a little bit. Got that man. Let me get this other one. I'm gonna get both sides touching in the case. And you just spin it and push down the bring the springs down far enough to where you see the groove line for the snap ring, and it didn't take much to get to that, so I clearly see it. And now we get the snap ring here, and I have to raise up a little bit. Get through here. That end in, and just come over here. the snap ring in, and push it down some more. Make sure it's in all the way before you release this. And this. Yep. Take this compressor tool off, and all the pistons are held in by the snap ring. It should look like this. You flip it upside down. It ain't going nowhere. And oh, almost forgot. You want to make sure that this is still intact right here. This yellow plastic piece right here. They got different colors and stuff, but you know, you want to make sure that this ain't damaged. You want to make sure it looks something that it looks like that. You know, not any pieces missing. I mentioned before, you know, I had the damaged piece when I removed this on part 2. You know, this is what it's supposed to look like. I got the piece for that. It's replaced, and you can see the 3 bearings. I mean, little check balls, bearings, check balls in there, the 3 right there. You got the seal right there. You want to make sure that's good. If not, replace it. And what's next is this washer. Same thing with the actually on this one, different from the other ones. You see, it's got these little points sticking down like that. You see the points facing down. You want them to face down. You're gonna have the opening in the inside this time. See, opening on the inside faces up. You just, you know, simple, you know, with the points that are facing down, you just have it face down. And you set it. Right on top of, right there. The edges will fit down on the center piece here. Just like that. And then oh yeah, before you set this in, sprag assembly turns one way but not the other. You try to turn it, this is the top of it right here. It'll turn to the right, but it'll lock left. See, trying to turn it. See, on this side, this is the bottom. See, I'm trying to, from the bottom side, trying to turn it left. It's not doing nothing. I'm turning it right. See, that bottom piece move. See, it turns right, on both sides. Turns right on the top or the bottom. See? Now this, see? It won't turn left. You flip it over, won't turn left. But to get these clutches in, then that goes in. So, oh, they're right here. So first, back to these, starting with the overrun. The overrun clutches, it's gonna have 2 fibers. Like I said, all these fibers are replaced off of all 5 sets. So starting from I better keep it like this. It's gonna drop the steel in first. Overrun steel will look like this. And where you see this big opening in between, you got these little 2 pegs together. Where you see this, you fit the little 2 pegs where you see you'll see it, you know, when you drop it in the piece. But the wider piece goes where the 5 wide spots you see on this sub-assembly case. And just drop it in like this, just like that. And next is fiber, then the steel, then the fiber, and then when you got that second overrun fiber in, then you go ahead and drop the sprag assembly in, because it's going to have grooves that are going to meet up with the grooves on the fiber clutches. And then you have this washer here already set in, and this just sits right on top of that washer, and at the same time it grabs on to these fiber clutches on the inner teeth of the fiber clutches. The sprag assembly grabs on to the inner teeth of the overrun fiber clutches. So and make sure it's down all the way. You can see if it's flush with the washer it's sitting on, and if it is, then should be looking like that. And then after that second fiber, like I said, you drop in the sprag assembly, and then once you drop in that sprag assembly, then you drop this steel in, and then now it's switching to the forward clutches, and that should have, snap ring is going to seal both of those clutches. But the overrun that's dropped in right now, there's 2 fibers for that, and for this forward there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 fibers for the forward, and it should look like this. You know, not all of them gonna have it like that, you know, depending on what brand you get, but you know, just to look like that. And the steels starting for this forward clutch set are gonna look like this. And where you see the smaller, you know, and then it's got that bevel right there, and they, you know, these two right here are gonna fit in the where you see the 5 wide grooves, and there you just like that, and you just, and it's gonna have another one following it, and then forward clutch fiber followed with a steel, then another fiber, steel, fiber, steel, fiber, steel, last fiber, and this would be like a pressure plate for this. Drop that in, and it should be looking flush, you know, with the top surface of this steel plate here. It should be flush with the groove for the snap ring that's about to go in, and it is. And so just put the snap ring in. That in, start it off at the edge. And there you go. Oh, there you go. Now I'd like to get the edges of the snap ring even looking identical to the, you know, what it's grabbing onto. You know, and then make sure they're in all the way. And it is, and this is what it should look like. Just like that, with the snap ring in. So 2 clutch sets are in here now. Now we're gonna put the third one on top of this, but this one ain't going nowhere. It's snap ring, sealed it off. All that is assembled, ain't going nowhere. And I'm gonna fill up this, and then it's gonna have to see it's got the grooves here for the snap ring. There we put all those steels and fibers in for the third and fourth gear clutch. That's what's going in next. It's for the third and fourth gear, and this is the number one common issue for the 700 R4s. This is number one, third and fourth clutch failure. It's why I had to open this transmission in the first place. And like I said, I'll be doing another transmission after this. This is actually a spare transmission that I have, you know. But it was its time, and you know, it was hard to tell if this thing ever been opened before. It looked to me like it's never been opened before, and then, you know, but when you don't have third gear, when you first, second gear, I mentioned this before in previous videos for this rebuild. When you go first and then second, and then it's trying to go into third, but it's hitting neutral, or it might just, sometimes it might just stay in second, and sometimes it would just go out in neutral and not go nowhere until you reduce your speed or whatever. But it's not going to hit third gear. Is primarily these clutches right here. This is for your third and fourth gear. These are third and fourth clutches right here. So this would be the snap ring holding all this clutch set down. And before we start dropping these in, like I mentioned before, they have a piece that covers all three of these pieces right here that I'm splitting into three. They have a piece that is, they made it into one piece. It's like an upgraded piece of all these put together. But I'm just keeping these because it's, you know, it's okay to use these two, but you know, that's just a choice if you want to keep the ones that's already in there, or do you want to swap this out, you know. It might, I'm not necessarily saying, but I'm saying might have to do with changing the clearance after all these are down, you know, from a clearance from, you know, after you got the top snap ring in, you know, just, I guess it would adjust the clearance, gap clearance of how much space it's got, you know, the clearance. But I'm just keeping it how it's been. So start off with this piece with the legs facing down. Facing down. And wherever you see these 3 pieces right there with the legs are gonna go on the wide spaces inside the sub-assembly case here. And same thing when you dropping this next piece in, you see that wide peg right there lines up with the wide on the case, sub-assembly case. And then you got these thinner steels that look the same. They're gonna look like this with 34th. The steels are. That's what they look like. Had that wide part right there. It's gonna go right in that wide groove there in the case. And these are what the fibers look like for the 3rd and 4th gear. Drop that in. And I got a steel. Actually, now on these steels here, the part that fits into the wide grooves on this sub-assembly case will be the smaller, more spread out pegs, not those. See that these are gonna have a thing in the middle. These are gonna, not those, but these 2 smaller ones will fit where the wide groove is on the case of the sub-assembly case. The smaller ones fit into the wide groove on the sub-assembly case. The smaller pieces on here fit on the wide groove case. Follow with another fiber, then the steel, then another fiber, and another steel. You want to have them all lined up the same too, all the steels like I just mentioned. Another steel. Fiber, steel, and fiber, and steel. And that's also flush. And almost forgot. open this transmission up, it did have these in it. Right here. So actually, wait a second. Here. Little spring loaders. Just drop them in. Just drop them in like that. Where this facing the inside, that's facing the outside. Facing inside, like that. Another one there, and them 5 big spaces, because there's 5 of these. And then once they're all in, then you put that last plate over it, because it's going to sit on top of those. And now it was flush until I put those spring loaders in, because it's giving it that spring load. And so it's a little higher, so just a little bit, still get the snap ring in. Supposed to have some kind of spring action, I guess, to help from these 3rd and 4th gear clutches from burning up or something. That keeps a better space, or gap in between the fiber clutches and the steel. Something to do with that, to keep it from burning up as quick, I guess. Something like that. And let's get the snap ring in. Got this started there. And you'll feel the difference with the spring load. Actually trying to get the snap ring in. Not too much, but it's good to have them on. depending on the clearance. There you go. And there it is. And just make sure it's pushed back all the way. And this. And that's what it looks like when it's all completely assembled for this input shaft assembly. Got the bearings in there in place, green tacked on it. And it's got the overrun clutches first, then the forward clutches, then the third and fourth clutches right here. All three, there's three clutch sets in here, and this is sealed off and it's not going nowhere. So it's completely assembled for this. So I'll set that over here. And what's next is this input reverse drum. Piston is already in with the snap ring. Piston is in, ring of springs right there, and the snap ring is holding all that in. And it's the final clutch set pack. And you got the snap ring for that. And starting off with this wavy plate, where you see the higher part of the wavy plate facing up, where you see the higher part on the inside. See right here, it's higher than these. This inside is going to be higher than these outer teeth. So the higher inside circle is going to face up when you drop this in, like that. And this is what the steels look like for this reverse input drum. That's what the steels look like. And this is what the fibers look like. Just drop a fiber, drop that in, steel, fiber. And there's 4 of these fiber clutches for this reverse input drum. There's going to be 4 fibers for this. Drop the steel in, fiber, steel, and then the last fiber, and then this will be the pressure plate for this reverse input drum. And then you just get the snap ring, and there it is. And that's what this reverse input drum should look like, with the snap ring in and everything in place, just like that. So this is finished. It's not going nowhere either. It should be just like that. And so I'm ready to bring this back up here. Okay. Output shaft end of the transmission is already done with the barrel. And oh yeah. And actually it's good to put this reverse input drum on top of this input shaft assembly first. To me, it makes it easier to, you know, it's quicker to me also. And you just, what you're doing is lining up this inner teeth of these fibers to these teeth grooves here. That's where it fits into. And you just sometimes you gotta spin it or circle it, twirl it around or whatever. Rock it a little bit. Sometimes it just be difficult. Now when you got it set down all the way, when you turn this reverse drum on top of this input shaft assembly, when you spin it, you should actually see that washer that this reverse input drum that is sitting on. You should be able to see the washer that this is sitting on, this reverse input drum. You should see that washer spinning. And if you don't see it spin, it's not down all the way. Because if it's spinning, it made contact, so it's seated down. So, because it can't go any further than that. So once you see that washer spinning, you have it down all the way. So that's what it looks like when both are combined together. Got the reverse input drum sitting on top of this input shaft assembly, and then pull this aside and bring this right here, and bring it closer. All right, there. And so now, once you got it all like that, sub-assemblies are finished for inside the barrel of the transmission. Oops. Okay. Now you grab this whole assembly, sub-assemblies together, and make sure these are lined up, okay, enough to where it'd be easier. Okay. Alright, now just drop it on top of that forward planetary gear set. They merge together. This is the input merging with the output. This is the input shaft right here, and the output shaft is down there. So this is input and output merging. I'm just gonna shake it around. almost seated down. There it is. And you tell it's down all the way, you could just, you'll hear it too, and you'll have like a little in play, like you'll hear the metal. You barely pick it up like this. You just barely lift it up, and then as soon as you just barely lift it up and then drop it, you hear that. So that's down all the way, and it should be this top surface of this reverse input drum should be right below the surface where this this flats. It should be this reverse input drum should be just below the surface where the gasket's gonna go, where the gasket for the transmission pump is gonna sit on. This this drum should be lower than this right here. So before we put the pump in, I'm gonna put this this band that goes across. It's gonna wrap around this reverse input drum right here. But before you do that, you wanna put assembly glue or even transmission fluid on it like that, and that way it can break in properly. Also, jumping the gun a little bit, whenever you first get this together and install it back in the vehicle, I'm saying this now in case I forget to mention later, you wanna just like you would an engine, when you reassemble the engine, rebuild the engine, the same with the transmission, you want to give it at least an initial run of 30 minutes, but I say a whole hour, you know. But don't go under 30 minutes. You let it run before you put it into any kind of gear. You let it circulate. You know, because these are new parts you're putting in, and you don't, you know, get them properly broke in a little bit. You know, just go easy at first. You know, these new parts, you put new parts in, especially. So now this band here, I'm gonna back this up a little bit. Right there. A little more. And this band, gotta get the peg piece. Peg for that's gonna the anchor pin that's gonna anchor down this band here. So I'll go this way. Just like that. Where you stick the anchor pin in, it's going to be on this side. And you just I'll just move this a little bit, and there we go. And you want to make sure that where the peg inserts on the band lines up with the actual hole on the case, and just like that. Insert the peg right there. Yeah, just like that. Pull these bolts out. For this pump, you got this right here. See these little pegs? It's actually gonna fit the little holes right here you see on the bottom. That's where the pegs will line up. So flipping upside down, you want to have some grain tack, heavy tack, and make sure the pegs are in the holes, and green tack is so because you're gonna flip this upside down. This is for the bottom of the pump, and just kind of get this blue where you're gonna set the gasket on, and just get it all around the rim. You get the gasket on first. And get some where the bottom of the pump here, where it's gonna meet with the reverse input drum. So you get the bearings, the bushings, and as well as up here, and all around the pump, on the outer edge. It's gonna line up with the case. Especially this ring shield that goes around you. You want to make sure you don't want that to mess up. Now, I mentioned earlier about these two different types of gaskets. Now, you're gonna have this one. This is gonna be for like 82 and 1983, but then it came out with the newer ones for the 1984 and up. It was gonna have this, bigger, wide piece on this part of it. Right there's where you can tell them apart. It's a diaphragm of it. See, 1982 through 83 for the first design on the top, and then the second design is for 1984 and up for these 700 R4s. That's the difference there. So I'm putting the 84 and up on here because that's what it is. It's past the 84, and okay. So put this upside down. There we go. Make sure it's all lined up right. And it's okay to me. And then the pump. The pump that seals the barrel. There you go. And I use a screwdriver to line the holes up. And then just actually, that was in the wrong spot. Get my rubber in this time. Okay. Let's see, hold on a second. Got these new bushings on here. Okay. And take this trim clip off. It shouldn't be this much of a hassle that bushings I got on here that I replaced is I guess just having a problem. I was given one of my bushings either on the pump or the input reverse drum. This is not one. It's probably too thick or something. But that I'll follow up on this on the next video. Because I'm running out of time kind of on this one. And it'll be these 7 bolts that go in here with these 7 holes, and then when the pump is down all the way, then you tighten the bolts. And but I could partially continue this brief part right here, but other than that, once this pump is down all the way, and then like I said, whenever you changing these bushings, and make sure that you have no doubt that it's exactly like, you know, the other one that you're replacing, or, you know, because if you get one, like, you might get one they say it's upgraded, but then it might be too thick or something like that, or maybe if you buy the bushings, check every piece to make sure that you know, that all the bushings are legit, you know. But I'm gonna end it here for this part 4 inside the barrel of the transmission, and I'll continue this on part 5 just briefly. And so that takes care of inside the barrel of the transmission, part 4, and part 5 will be reassemble bottom of the transmission. We'll be putting the valve body back on, and all that, and check balls and all that stuff, pan, and all this, servo, governor, tailpiece, all that. And that's it for now on this. Continue over, like I said, to part 5 briefly on this part. But other than that, basically that takes care of inside the barrel of the transmission. And so go to part 5 for the reassemble bottom of transmission, part 5.